in April of 2005, I woke up in the morning with what I thought was a bad case of the flu, and Carol, who was just my girlfriend then, insisted that I go to the hospital, and I went to the hospital, and they didn't know what was wrong with me, and when I woke up 3 weeks later, I was in a different hospital and had no hands and no feet. I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia in 1954. My dad was in my opinion, a Navy hero. He was in Pearl Harbor when it was bombed. And I was raised the first 3 years of my life in Washington, D.C., moved to Chicago when my dad was stationed in the Navy base, the Great Lakes Navy base, and then because of the health of my mother, who was a rheumatoid arthritic, we moved to Arizona in 1959 to keep her on her feet, and she stayed on her feet for another 30 years after that, so that was a good choice. In 1985, I was in my backyard and I was shot in the back by a little boy that was playing with his dad's rifle, and he was shooting at his back fence, and I was on the other side. And the bullet went through the fence and hit me in the side, and it shattered my spleen and entered my backbone. But that happened in 1985, and because I had no spleen, then 20 years later, in April of 2005, I contacted an illness that caused my amputations.
Jeff was in a coma in the hospital, and everyone was telling me, all the medical professionals were telling me that he was going to die, that he wasn't going to make it. And I had accepted that as a very likely fact, but they wanted me to sign a DNR, and I couldn't do that. I just knew that Jeff wouldn't want me to do that. I went outside, I was a smoker at the time, and I went outside and sat on my smoking bench, and one of the nurses had given me a bookmark. And on this bookmark there was a poem that says, "Don't give up." And I read it, and it moved me, but I put it in my purse and went out for a cigarette, reached in for a cigarette, and every time I reached in my purse, I came out with the bookmark. And I kept looking at it and putting it away, and then I realized that that was it. I had to just not give up.
Now you have to understand that every medical professional at that time was coming down on her pretty hard. Let this man go. His life is not worth saving at this point. I don't even think we can save his life, even if we tried. And she was the one that said, no, you are going to do everything you possibly can.
When the surgeon came in and looked at Jeff and said, he looked at him for maybe 10 seconds, and then he turned and walked out of the room saying, "I'm not going to do it." I ran after him, grabbed him by the shoulder and turned him around and said, "You have to do it. Someone has to do it." And he said, "No, he'll die on the table. I'm not going to do it." And I said, "He'll either die on the table or he'll die right there in the room. He has to have the surgery. He can't live without it." He said he's going to wake up with no hands and no feet and hate you forever. And I said, so be it.
And I hate this woman so much that on June 11th, 2005, just barely over 2 months after this happened to me, while I was still in the hospital, I asked this woman to marry me. And we were married by the hospital clergy in room 105 in telemetry, in the same hospital in which the amputations happened. When I had woken up and realized that I had no hands and feet, I was really inundated with visitors, colleagues, ex-students from years back that I didn't even remember. But I remember one of the department heads that I had came in and he said to me, "Jeff, you're at a crossroads right now. You can either lay there and feel sorry for yourself, or you can use this as a springboard to go out and change lives." It was a wonderful, positive thing to say. And I can remember while I was awake, my principal had called me up several times. And he called and talked to me on the phone, told me about the wonderful things that were happening at the high school where I was teaching. But he always finished up the conversation with, "Can you give me some sort of timeline for when you're going to be back in the classroom?" When all the medical professionals were asking me to apply for Social Security and go on disability, and he didn't give me that option. Every conversation ended up with, "I need to know when you're going to be back in the classroom." And less than 8 months later, I was sitting in his office getting ready to start teaching again full-time in January. I will never, ever believe that God did this to me, but I do believe in my heart that God kept me around for a reason. Something that I really live my life by now is I'm not going to let the things that I can't do get in the way of the things that I can do. And there's a lot of things I can't do, but there's a lot of wonderful people out there that have helped me through this. A lot of new wonderful people that I've met, and a lot of wonderful people that I've yet to meet. And life it's wonderful. One thing I would like to leave you with, I always remember from The Music Man, when Professor Harold Hill was waiting for Marion the librarian to come meet him at the footbridge. And she came down and she said, I almost didn't come. I think we should do this tomorrow. And he said, oh, Miss Marion, if you pile up enough tomorrows, all you'll find is a bunch of empty yesterdays. And for those of you that have anything wrong with you at all, whether it be an amputation, whether it be a loved one you lost, any crisis in your life, don't start piling up empty yesterdays. Get up and live, because you get one get-go in this world, and that's it.